Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm gonna play the music here and hope I don't get copyright struck. Evangelion is one of my favorite animes of all time, and having recently gone back for a rewatch to finally give the rebuild movies a viewing, I couldn't help but have Eva on the mind. With it having such a cultural impact in both the USA and of course Japan, there is no shortage of Evangelion merchandise, including a menagerie of games. Everything from fighters and adventure games to dating sims and strip mahjong games. Yeah, you'll find a weird assortment of Eva games out there, including today's test subject, Neon Genesis Evangelion for the N64. What is essentially a truncated retelling of the TV series, including End of Evangelion, Eva 64 finds itself prioritizing style over substance in its 14 levels. Every mission is beautifully front-loaded and bookended with ostentatious cutscenes full of voiced lines, eye-catching 3D renditions of the Eva units and angels, and show-accurate plot lines all playing out at your fingertips. And when the pace picks up, the Evas are launched, and the modified versions of the battle themes hit your eardrums, it genuinely feels like you're playing an episode of the show. Especially with the end of mission tally-up screen being a wonderful homage to the show's actual credits sequence. But in spite of the game clearly being a well-made love letter to the series, unfortunately, it's sorely lacking in the gameplay department and is marred by a handful of frustrating minigames. As I mentioned before, the presentation is astonishing, boasting some of the finest visuals to grace the N64 and rather lavish cutscenes faithfully recreating episodes. But that accuracy comes at the cost of the actual gameplay. Rather than creating a more involved action-based game, we end up with a meager array of QuickTime events, rhythm games, and clunky angel fights. On one hand, the fighting minigames aren't that lousy, just a little unwieldy and confusing at first. But as you move on, missions get lamer, with some lasting only 15 to 20 seconds. While some levels aren't so bad, like Dance If You Want to Win, where you have to quickly input button combos in sync with the music, or Magma Diver, where you're piloting the Eva in first person and locking onto your target, there are other missions that feel frustrating by design. Anytime I had to rapidly press A and down C to break an AT field or overtake a foe, I was never sure if it was going to register and work or if I was just going to fruitlessly rub my fingers raw in the process. And don't get me started on the awful Spear of Longinus steering mission that reminds me way too much of landing the plane in Top Gun, or the third level with the extremely touchy aiming reticle. Both always take me multiple tries, and neither have a consistent strategy. I just get lucky and eventually win. God, those suck. In a way, I can sympathize with the developers, as some of these episodes are hard to adapt for a video game, and these minigames provide a neat and convenient way to do so. I just wish some of them were better made. Also, it kind of sucks to see a few episodes omitted, like Asuka's first appearance where she fights off the Angel on the battleships, and episode 11, which is one of only a few Angel skirmishes where all three children get to fight together. That being said, it's still neat to see some episodes get some love, like Dance If You Want to Win, and episode 12 with its awesome Angel design and teamwork sequences. Aside from the story mode, the game does sport a few other features like a model viewer, a movie viewer, and an extra game in the form of simulation mode, where you can pick your pilot of choice and gun down as many angels as you can in 1 minute. It's kind of amusing for what it is, and adding in some extra angels that didn't make it into the main missions was a nice touch. While it may stun visually and is lovingly accurate to the show, no matter how you spin it, a series of subpar QTEs and frustrating minigames does not make for a good time. If you're looking for a fun minigame collection, might I point you in the direction of WarioWare, Point Blank, or Salaryman Champion. If you're an Eva fan still looking for some exhilarating robot action, I hear Battle Orchestra for the PS2 is pretty good, so maybe give that a shot. But for those of you unfamiliar with Evangelion, there isn't much of a point to playing this one, as it should stay reserved for the hardcore fans like myself who can appreciate this as a neat aside, as I feel the sole justification for this game existing is the novelty of seeing Evangelion play out on your N64. And if that's not enough to pique your interest, I highly recommend passing on this and instead playing Sin and Punishment for a much more fulfilling robot action game on the 64. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, consider checking out these other videos right here, or even subscribing. Also, if you'd like to throw me a couple of bucks, you can support the show on Patreon.